breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson. Now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got a tremendous podcast for you guys. Joining me in segment number 2, we are going to be joined by Patrick Creighton. He does amazing work over at ESPN 97.5 and is based out there in Houston, Texas. We're, without a doubt, going to be talking about the Houston Astros, what he's all seen from them thus far this season. We're going to be taking a look at the landscape of the American League West, what he's all seen thus far this season, and turn it forward to take a look at a few games for Sunday in the final segment. Going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @GNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. That mean does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Only question I got asked is, are they going to stop scoring in Mexico City? Because I think that as I record this podcast, we just saw another 10 home runs. The answer is, I am not sure, but let's take a look back at everything that we saw on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
I have learned the lesson of don't make a DK Nation write-up pick, a game that is occurring in a ballpark that you've never seen an MLB game played in. I took the under in the Padres versus the San Francisco Giants thinking, oh, there's no way we're going to get 15.5 runs, even though the elevation is higher than that of Coors Field, and it turns out this is a Mickey Mouse ballpark. The San Diego Padres get a 16-11 win. The Padres got over the total all by themselves. There were 11 total home runs in this game. This is just where pitching went to die. Sean Manaea gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in 2 innings for the Giants. Jacob Junis gave up 5 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Hey, you wound up having 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless from Taylor Rogers before his brother Tyler gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Scott Alexander gives up 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning, and John Brebbia gave up a run in an inning. For the San Diego Padres, Joe Musgrove, he went 3 1/3 innings, giving up 7 runs and 3 home runs. You had Steven Wilson give up 2 home runs, 3 runs in total in 2/3 of an inning. Brett Honeywell gives up 1 run and 1 2/3 innings. Tim Hill, scoreless inning, and Nick Martinez, seemingly the only guy that could pitch, 5 punch-outs, 2 scoreless innings, and gotten out of the bullpen from Tom Cosgrove, as in his MLB debut, Mr. Cosgrove was able to get the win. As for the Padres, you had Manny Machado go deep twice for his 3rd and 4th home runs of the season. You then from there had Xander Bogaerts get his 6th home run season. Fernando Tatis Jr. had a home run that measured out at 308 feet for his 2nd home run season. Juan Soto got his 5th home run season. Nelson Cruz got his 3rd home run season for the San Francisco Giants. Brandon Crawford, 4th home run season. Mitch Haniger, 1st home run season. Lamonte Wade Jr. along with David Villar, they get their 4th home run season. And Blake Subble, his 5th home run campaign. Yep, we are not heading back to Mexico City for the write-up pick on Sunday. That was relatively brutal, to say the least, and I don't think that we're ever going to be seeing a MLB franchise in Mexico City. We are seeing one in Toronto, though, and in 10 innings, the Blue Jays outlast the Seattle Mariners by a count of 1-0. A really good debut for Easton McGee, someone that I liked at the minor league level. Only 2 strikeouts, but he gives up 1 hit and 1 walk in 6 2/3 innings scoreless. Matt Brash from there and out of the bullpen. Justin Topa, Paul Sewell both led a scoreless inning before Trevor Gott gives up the unearned run in the 10th inning. For the Mariners, they go 0-9 with men in scoring position as Kevin Gausman was on his game. 13 punch-outs and 7 scoreless innings. Zach Pop, Jordan Romano, Eric Swanson all close out the game with a scoreless inning. The Pirates and the Washington Nationals played too, and the Pirates were able to get it done in both of them. 6-3, they win in game number 1 with a pair of home runs. Connor Joe makes things go with his 4th home run season. That comes off of Patrick Corbin, and then Carl Edwards Jr. gives one up to, this is a blast from the past, Miguel Andujar for his 1st home run season for Corbin. Not the world's worst start. Gives up 3 runs at 5 1/3 innings. He was certainly better than the man that would take the mound in game 2 for the Washington Nationals. Carl Edwards Jr. gives up one of those home runs in 2/3 of an inning. From there, Thaddeus Ward, a run given up in an inning. Anthony Banda gave up a run without recording it out before Erasmo Ramirez along Jordan Weems, both on a scoreless inning. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Not a terrible start here from Rich Hill. 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up at 6 1/3 innings. Bullpen on his back, David Bednar, Carl Holderman, they both under scoreless inning, and Robert Stevenson. Pair of outs out of the bullpen. In Game 2, this just got embarrassing. 16-1, the Pittsburgh Pirates get it done as Vince Velasquez. Another good start from him. He goes 6 scoreless innings, and for Vince Velasquez, he has given up 0 runs in now 3 out of his last 4 starts. You had a pair of guys come in and hold down the fort from there. Cody Bolton, 2 scoreless innings. Yohan Ramirez gives you a scoreless inning. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Miguel Andujar, for the second straight game, he gets a home run, his second of the campaign, and Jack Swiniski was able to get his 6th home run campaign for the Washington Nationals. Chad Kuhl did not lend the length that they were looking for. 8 runs surrendered in 3 2/3 innings. Jordan Weems, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Hunter Harvey, a scoreless inning, but you had Obi Harris give up 5 runs in 2 innings, including one of those home runs. And then Lane Thomas, the starting right fielder, gives up 3 runs in an inning, including one of those homers. And the lone form of offense for the Washington Nationals, they were able to get a late home run from Dominic Smith, his first in a Washington Nationals uniform. You also had 2 played between the Detroit Tigers and the Baltimore Orioles. Tigers took game number 1 by a count of 7-4 as Dean Kremer, he got crushed, giving up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings, allowing 11 hits. From there, you did have 2 runs surrendered in 3 innings, but from DL Turn-It-Up-All, he gave up a home run along the way to Zach Short, his first home run of the season, and Eduardo Rodriguez continues to be solid, giving up a home run in 5 2/3 innings. As hitting that off of him, you had home run number 2 of the season from catcher James McCann. A little bit later, Orde Mateo, he gets his 5th home run season. That comes off of Mason Englert, who gave up 3 runs in 2 1/3 innings before Alex Lang came in, and he was able to get the final inning scoreless. But the Orioles, they bounced back in Game 2, 6-4 the final as Grayson Rodriguez deliver a gem. 5 scoreless innings, 9 punch-outs along the way. Keegan Aiken, not good in this one. He gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, doesn't get it out. Mike Baumann give up a solo home run in that game, as well as Tyler Nevin. He gets his first home run of the season. From there, the Baltimore Orioles bullpen was relatively nails. Yanier Cano, Felix Bautista both provide a scoreless inning, and Brian Baker, Danny Columbi, they combined for a scoreless inning. For Detroit, Matthew Boyd got crushed, giving up 6 runs in 5 2/3 innings, including a home run to Ryan McKenna, his first home run of the season. From there, you did have Jason Volley, Will Vest, both on a scoreless inning, and Jose Cicerno gets 4 outs out of the bullpen without allowing a run. The Milwaukee Brewers get it done against the LA Angels, 7-5 the final, as the Brewers are now 18-9 thus far this season, and Corbin Burns, not his greatest start, but certainly was able to hold down the fort, giving up 1 run in 6 innings. Bullpen had some issues as Bryce Wilson gives up 2 runs while getting just 2 outs out of the bullpen, including a home run. As going deep, Mike Trout, he gets home run number 7 of the season off of him, as he got number 6 of the season off of Elvis Piguero, who gave up 2 runs in his inning, including that home run. But Peter Strzelecki was able to give you a scoreless inning, and Devin Williams gets final out of the game to be able to get the save. Meanwhile, Reed Detmers was not on it in this one. 7 runs, 4 of which were earned, surrendered in 4 1/3 innings. Anthony Rendon, with his 4th error of the season, really killed him there. Jaime Barria came in for 3 scoreless innings out of the bullpen. And then Andrew Wantz, he doesn't want this one back as he got a pair of outs out of the bullpen, so he was able to do a functional job. We've been seeing the Tampa Bay Rays just continuing to get it done time and time again, and they put up a 10 spot in the 7th inning against the Chicago White Sox. 12-3, the Rays get it done. Rays were down 3-0 going into that 7th inning, and then it all completely unraveled on Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn, I think, was pitching a no-hitter going into that inning, by the way, and then 6 1/3 innings, he gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned as things went down the toilet bowl. Aaron Bummer, way to live up to your name. 3 runs surrendered while getting 1 out of the bullpen. Jimmy Lambert gives up 3 runs out of the bullpen while getting 1 out, giving up 2 home runs. Jake Diekman along Keenan Middleton, they come in for an inning. They both allow a solo home run along the way. As for the Tampa Bay Rays, Randy Arozarena goes deep twice for his 6th and 7th home runs of the season. You had Josh Lowe get his 5th home run season, Wander Franco get his 5th home run season, and Francisco Mejia his first. Calvin Fauché was the opener, and it was not a great open, giving up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings, but uptown Yoni Chirinos giving up 1 run in 4 2/3 innings. Garrett Clevenger, Ryan Thompson, Jalen Beeks from there all supply a scoreless inning as the White Sox go 2 of 9 with men in scoring position, and the White Sox have now lost 9 straight. Really sad out there. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they aren't sad. They get the job done 11-4 against the Colorado Rockies as Tommy Henry, not the start he was looking for, giving up 4 runs, in 5 1/3 innings, but bullpen at his back. Anthony Machevich, Scott McGill, Kevin Ginkel all lend a scoreless inning, and Jose Ruiz, a pair of outs out of the bullpen for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Pair of home runs in this one. Geraldo Perdomo off the starter, and Noah Davis gets his second home run season, and Christian Walker, home run number 4 of the season. That comes off of Pierce Johnson. Johnson gives up that home run over the course of his inning of work. Jake Bird, 2 2/3 innings, he lost 1 run, and Connor Siebold had to come in the long relief, giving up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Noah Davis, after a good run of things early on in his big league career, regression caught up to him. 2 innings, gives up 7 runs, all of which were earned. So that was another rough one for the Colorado Rockies, who are now 8-20 as far this season. Been less than terrific there. The top under team in all baseball right now is the New York Yankees, and they did not score on Saturday. They lose by a count of 2-0. Yankees now 9-18-1 to the over, with the 18 being the amount of unders that they played thus far this season. Johnny Brito wasn't bad. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Did allow a home run to Ezekiel Duran, his second home run season. From there, though, you had Ron Marinaccio, Wandy Peralta, Ian Hamilton, all in a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, Nathan Eovaldi, complete game shutout. Gives up 3 hits, no walks, and 9 scoreless innings. So the Texas Rangers did a good job of blanking the Yankees, and the Rangers have actually been one of your top over teams in all baseball. 16 overs, 9 unders, and 2 pushes for them thus far this season. You saw the LA Dodgers play a game of Leicester as well. They win by a count of 1-0 against the St. Louis Cardinals. I think that this was just the 20th one-run win for the LA Dodgers over the last 2 seasons, as Jordan Montgomery pitched well. He gave up 1 run in 6 2/3 innings. Jordan Hicks, a scoreless inning out of the bullpen. Justice Cabrera gets it out of the bullpen as well. But for the LA Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw was stealing. 2 hits, no walks, 9 punch-outs, and 7 scoreless innings. Evan Phillips, Bruce Harder, Gratterall. They were able to close things out as they were able to get a scoreless inning. You also saw the Philadelphia Phillies take down the reigning champions. 6-1 Phillies take down the Houston Astros. We're going to talk about Houston in the second segment with Patrick Creighton, who does great work over at ESPN 97.5 out there in that lovely city. But pair of home runs for the Philadelphia Phillies, Nick Castellanos. He was able to get home run number 4 of the season, and it was the second home run of the campaign for Cody Clemens, as Christian Javier gives up the first of those home runs to Castellanos, giving up 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Other home run given up by Phil Maton, who gave up a solo home run in his 1 1/3 innings. Seth Martinez gives up 2 runs in an inning before Rona Blanco comes in, lends a scoreless inning, and lone form of offense for the Houston Astros, Jeremy Pena, 6th home run season. That comes off of Andrew Vasquez, as Zach Wheeler, by far his best start of the season, 6 scoreless innings. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Junior Marte were both able to lend a scoreless inning before Vasquez gives up that solo home run. The Chicago Cubs got the start that they were not looking for out of Caleb Killian, and that costed them 7-6. The Miami Marlins able to get it done over Chicago for Killian. He gives up 7 runs in 3 1/3 innings, and he gave up 5 of those in the first inning. He was just not sharp at any point. Bullpen actually had his back, as Julian Merriweather provided 2 scoreless innings. Jeremiah Estrada, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Edgar Alzolay, a scoreless inning, and the Cubs were able to put up 6 in Miami, which is not easy to do. Cody Bellinger gets his 6th home run season off of Andrew Nardi, and then the starter Edward Cabrera gives one up to Patrick Wisdom, his 10th home run season for Cabrera. 12 punch-outs, but 5 walks in this one as well. He gives up just 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Andrew Nardi, he gives up the home run that we saw to Cody Bellinger. He did not get an out, and he gave up 2 runs. Uskar Brazobin, though, 2 scoreless innings. Stephen Okert gives up a run in a 1/3 of an inning. Matt Barnes, pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Tanner Scott, he was able to lend a scoreless inning. Just the 3rd over in Miami thus far this season. It's been the top under ballpark in all of baseball thus far this season. The Kansas City Royals as a sizable underdog. They take down the Minnesota Twins 3-2, the finals. Brad Keller gives up just 1 run in 5 1/3 innings. Jose Cuas, pair of outs out of the bullpen, Aroldis Chapman, Scarpolo. They both give up a nothing burger in their inning of work, but Taylor Clark, he did allow a solo home run. Byron Buxton, 6th home run season, was able to take him deep. And for Bailey Ober, solid start here. 5 2/3 innings, gives up 1 run. From there, Griffin Jacks gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Caleb Theobar, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Ode Lopez gets it out of the bullpen, and Yohan Duran, he gives up a run in an inning. That cost the team the game, but in reality, the Twins going 0 of 11 with men in scoring position and stranding 12 men on base. That's what doomed them The Cleveland Guardians were doomed by their bullpen, 8-7 in 10 innings. The Boston Red Sox were able to get the W. As for Cleveland, they did get a pair of home runs in this one. Andres Gimenez gets his second home run of the season, and Josh Bell is third. For Bell, he goes deep off of the starter in Brian Bayo. All that he would give up is that home run. Gives up one run over the course of 5 innings. Other home run that was supplied by Richard Blyer, giving up a home run in his inning of work. Ryan Brazier was really the guy that costed the team this one in terms of bullpen. 3 runs given up in 2/3 of an inning. John Schreiber, and out of the bullpen, Josh Winkowski, though. Scoreless inning. Kenley Jansen credited with a blown save, giving up a run in an inning, so that's how you know that the world is normal. Brendan Bernardino gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning as well, but for the Boston Red Sox, they had Rafael Devers go off early in this one, 10th home run season. That comes off of Zach Plesac, who gave up 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings. From there, the rest of the bullpen was able to do a solid job as Emmanuel Clase gives up 2 unearned runs in a third of an inning, hurt by Mike Zunino throwing error, and obviously the ghost runner on second, but Eli Morgan, James Karinchak, and Yel De Los Santos all ended scoreless inning, and Xavier Curry 1 unearned run given up in 2 2/3 innings. You saw the Cincinnati Reds be able to get it done against the Oakland A's by a count of 3-2 as the bullpen yacked this one up for the Oakland A's. Jeurys Familia continues to be Spanish for blown save. He gives up 2 runs in the 9th inning. Prior to that, you had Kyle Mueller actually give a good start, gives up a solo home run over the course of 5 innings, as it was Luke Mele who got his first home run season. He did have Domingo Acevedo, Zach Jackson, Richard Lovelady, all ended scoreless inning. And for the Cincinnati Reds, Hunter Green was on it. 2 unearned runs, was hurt by Nick Senzel throwing error, 10 punch-outs in 5 innings. From there, though, Alex Young, Ian Gabo, 2 scoreless innings, and then Alexis Diaz and Casey Logumia. They were both able to provide a scoreless inning as well. And for the Oakland A's, a rare under for them. They have currently played 18 overs, 8 unders, and 2 pushes. 69% of their games have gone over the total. And if you take a look at the trends in Major League Baseball, we have noticed things have really ironed out in terms of overs and unders, and that's because in the last 7 days, we've been seeing a bunch of unders. 49 unders to 39 overs in the last 7 days of Major League Baseball. I think that we've had 3 pushes along the way as well, but if you take a look at favorites, they continue to clean house. 60 and 32 straight up are favorites, but 18 of these 60 favorites have been unable to cover the run line, laying a run and a half. Meanwhile, overall for the season for favorites, they have went 253 and 154, 62.2% hit rate, but they have noticed 65 of these favorites being unable to cover the run line, and overall this season, 197 overs to 194 unders, so 50.4% of games are currently going over the total. That's what we all saw in Major League Baseball on Saturday, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball. Coming up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show, we're going out to the great city of Houston. That's where we find one of our good friends. And Patrick Creighton, we're going to be talking about the Astros, the AL East, and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Houston Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units returned, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Houston Family Podcast. We head out to the great city of Houston, as that's where we find Patrick Creighton. He does a great job with the show Late Hits, which you're able to find on ESPN 97.5 out there in Houston. That is from 7 to 9 p.m. Central. That is the local time out there in Houston. I know he does a great job covering a little bit of everything. Texans, Astros. If you're a fan of the XFL, we've talked about that quite a bit on my Visa show, The Greg Peterson Experience, the Houston Roughnecks as well. And you're able to find him on Twitter at PCreighton1, so letter P, his last name Creighton, and the number 1. And Patrick, great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, man, always good to catch up with you, talk a little baseball. This is great, man. Love you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. And Patrick, what have you made out of the start of the season for the Houston Astros? Because I think that we're both aware this is not the Astros team that we should be seeing in September/October if all things go right because of the injuries that we've been seeing to Jose Altuve and company. But they do enter into Sunday Night Baseball above 500, able to tread water. So I feel like it's been a little bit of a mixed bag from my view. Not sure if you've got something different, but it certainly has been an Astros team that has been fighting a little bit upstream, and thus far, not great, but not terrible.
No, and I think that was to be expected. Obviously, without Jose Altuve, without Michael Brantley, the offense wasn't going to be what you'd expect from the Houston Astros. But despite that, they had to deal with Chas McCormick being out of the lineup now, and they've had to deal with Yordan Alvarez being out of the lineup. There's been some challenges for them, yet here they are still, a couple of games over 500, despite all those things, and despite the fact that really Jose Abreu hasn't hit a lick yet. Alex Bregman really hasn't hit a lick yet. Jeremy Pena has gotten off to a very slow start. They're getting production, from Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker. And then after that, it's been Mauricio Dubon and Corey Julks and Jake Myers and guys that nobody was planning on being real contributors at the start of the season. So the expectation was, all right, let's see the Astros being down some key bats. Let's see them, play around 500 baseball. And then as they get healthier, you'll see the Astros take off. But I thought it was very important. Last week, Astros go on the road, two best teams in baseball right now. They went to Tampa Bay and they went to Atlanta. They went to Atlanta. They swept the Braves. They went to Tampa. Tampa hadn't lost a game at home all season long. They take 2 or 3 at the Trop. At the end of the day, the Astros are still the Astros, and the American League is going through Houston before you get to a World Series appearance.
Yep, the Houston Astros being able to win those games about a week or so ago, I think was very important, and I thought that it was a very good sign from the Astros as well. Joining me on the podcast, we do have Patrick Creighton. He does a great job over there at ESPN 97.5 at Houston. And Patrick, what have you made out of the entirety of the AL West? Because I do feel like there have been a few surprises in this division. The most notable one, the Texas Rangers. They've really been able to get things going. As we sit here right now, they are leading the Houston Astros by a game going into Saturday night's game. We shall see what happens there. We thought the Oakland A's were going to be bad. I thought they might be a little bit better than 5 of 22, but not a shock that they find themselves at the bottom. But I think the biggest surprise for me in the division right now has been the struggles of the Seattle Mariners. I'm not sure what you made out of this, but for the Seattle Mariners, I think that you were talking about this when you joined me about a month or so ago on VSiN, the way that they were able to pull out so many one-run games the last 2 seasons. They have now lost 4 straight games, all by 1 run, and I think that they might be sort of paying the toll of the good luck that they got the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, Greg, you're spot on with that, brother. The Mariners have been the team for me to watch as well, and they really are, to me, the biggest surprise in the division, being 5 games under. A lot of that late inning luck where they were winning those 1-run games, those extra inning games we just mentioned. They're not winning those games right now. And then they just lost Robbie Ray for the season. So, the Mariners are kind of taking it on the chin right now. I think that they'll rebound. I also think that, you'll see the Mariners play some good baseball as we get into the middle months of the season, but they are off to a very tough start. They took a major injury, and like you said, at some point there is a regression to the mean. When you've been winning 2/3 of your 1-run games, at some point you're going to come back to earth. They've come back to earth very hard here in April. Almost too much, like the pendulum was swung a little too far. So I do think that there will be some positive momentum for them a little bit later on in the season. And I do still think the Mariners are the second best team in the division. I am not buying the Rangers yet. They've gotten off to a nice start, but you know what? The Angels got off to a real nice start last year, and their season was over in June. I need to see the Rangers be able to sustain some kind of level of play that doesn't involve, scoring 20-something runs against the Oakland A's 3 times. I need to see them sustain this for a couple of months before I'm going to believe in the Rangers. Right now, look, you just saw Jacob deGrom leave another start early. As somebody who's been a lifelong Met fan, I love Jacob deGrom. That guy is one of the most amazing pitchers that I've ever seen. He is one of the most unhittable pitchers that I've ever seen. Unfortunately, he's got all kinds of issues with his arm. He's never healthy anymore. And that's a major, major concern. If they don't have Jacob deGrom for a stretch, you could see them tailspin out probably pretty quickly. I don't think the Rangers are much more than a 500 team at the end of the day. And if they lose deGrom, it could throw a lot of their plans a big monkey wrench. The Oakland A's, man, they're not even trying. I don't even know if they could beat the Sugarland Space Cowboys right now. It is disgraceful that John Fisher has basically just punted on multiple seasons, and this is the worst one yet. This is a team, they might not win 55 games. This is an embarrassment. They're talking about, moving to Las Vegas, and I'd love to talk to you about that because last year I think them moving to Vegas was kind of a very exciting proposition. This is something that clearly the league and the team have wanted. But, recently I've started to see some things that maybe Las Vegas isn't feeling the idea of, hey, let's hand a billionaire hundreds of millions of dollars to build a stadium that he's going to control and we're not. So I'm wondering if that's going to be an issue. But the A's are going to be the worst team in the league, and they're going to be the worst team in the league by a long, long shot.
And Patrick, being out here in Las Vegas, a lot of people do have that question as well, especially to your point on an owner that's not trying. If he sticks a little bit more money in the roster and, I don't know, doesn't trade away Sean Manaea, Chris Bassett, insert your star players here, Matt Chapman, in the next few years, you know what? I think that the people might be a little bit more willing to shell out the money and go to the games rather than if you're trotting out there guys that are clearly trying, like Brett Rooker. He's been able to give this team a good, honest effort. You've got out there night in and night out guys that, they're not very good, but Domingo Acevedo, you can tell, is trying his best. It's not his fault that they just have absolutely no team whatsoever. These guys are fighting for their lives, but at the same time, it's just not been good to say the least. So we have our questions out here as well about that, as we do have Patrick Creighton, who does amazing work over at ESPN 97.5, joining me on the podcast. And it has been about a month through the season, and we've seen some surprises to the positive, to the negative, and we've seen some teams that it's been relatively what we've expected out of them. But outside of the AL West, since we've mostly been focusing on that division, has there been anything else that has really stood out to you this season, whether that be to the positive or the negative?
Well, before the season, once again, there was a whole bunch of hype around the New York Yankees that I just didn't understand. Now, this is a team whose offense was heavily predicated on their star player having an historic season with 62 home runs. Then they booed that guy in the postseason because, go fans in the Bronx. But they went through the offseason. They really didn't do anything to improve the offense. They brought Judge back. They brought Rizzo back. But they didn't really go out and get an impact offensive player to lessen the load on Aaron Judge. And you're seeing it right now. The Yankees are having trouble scoring runs. They played 27 games. They scored 114 runs. That's the lowest total in the American League East, barely better than what the Mariners have scored. The Yankees pitching is still pretty good. The Yankees pitching was very good last year. It's been very good for a few years. But the offense is very inconsistent. And if Aaron Judge isn't just hitting on a Mickey Mantle level, their offense just doesn't score enough. Another team that I was bullish on was the Minnesota Twins. I thought the Twins made some good kind of under-the-radar moves. They're getting some nice bounce-back seasons from guys. As always, if their pitching can stay healthy, they've got a shot to contend in that division. Because I don't think the Guardians are all that great. I think they've got a couple of good players and a whole lot of Joes. The Twins and the Guardians will be the two best teams in that division. Twins are off to a nice little start. They're a team that I think in a relatively weak division, they've got a shot to win that division.
The Twins have been quite impressive, and to your point, man, the Kansas City Royals, the Detroit Tigers, we talk about the A's not trying, and they're giving you a little bit more of something, but we clearly do have a divide between the haves and the have-nots. And I do think that has led to more of the demonstrative records that we have been seeing in baseball, and I feel like that's continued this year because we could throw in there the Washington Nationals, which they do have some guys that in 2 to 3 years I honestly think are going to be relatively okay once you can get Patrick Corbin off the books. I think that's going to be all right, but typically the old saying is in baseball, even the worst teams win 60 games, even the best teams lose 60 games, but we've been noticing that there's been more teams that have been able to get to like 105, 110 losses, 105, 110 wins. I feel like there's a lot of intentional tanking that is happening in the MLB, and that has resulted in some rather lopsidedness between the best and the worst teams in the game.
Yeah, the Nationals are paying for that world title. They gave out a big contract to Steven Strasburg, and then he immediately got hurt. I don't know that Steven Strasburg's ever going to pitch again. Patrick Corbin, of course, really, the injuries and then the performance is just kind of falling off a cliff. They've got some bad contracts they just can't get rid of. With everything that franchise has gone through with, the sale and everything, a lot of times when teams are getting sold, they strip everything down. Well, they couldn't strip those guys down, so they sold off a ton of talent for, a lot of guys who are several years away. I do think the Nationals will be back to being a relevant team probably about 3 years from now. They're kind of taking it on the chin right now. The Phillies have injury issues. The Mets have some injury issues because, is there a starting pitcher on the Mets who did not get imported from Japan who isn't hurt right now? Everybody is hurt on the Mets. I do think the Braves maybe are the best team in the National League. So, but the Mets, the Phillies, whoever it is, they're going to be chasing the Braves all year. I'm not buying the Pirates at 19-8. Not any way, shape, or form am I buying the Pirates. That's another team that I think by the time we get to the All-Star break, we're going to be looking at them probably being under 500. I am buying the Diamondbacks, though. I think the Diamondbacks have a lot of young talent starting to come together. I think they could be a 500 team. They're exciting. They score some runs. If they can keep the pitching in line, and look, Brent Strom did a great job with that. They can keep the pitching in line. Diamondbacks could be respectable. I don't think that they're going to contend with the Dodgers and the Padres at the end of the year. The Padres are also a little bit of a slow start because they haven't gotten anything really from Tatis or Machado or Soto yet. That's going to turn around. And when they do, the Padres will probably rip on a crazy hot streak. So I feel there's a big hot streak coming for the San Diego Padres. I think the Diamondbacks will be much more representative this year of a decent team around 500 than they've been the last couple of years.
I think so as well. These guys are not going to stay down for forever. Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and company. It's been really rough for them, but I do think that they're going to be able to get out of their swoon. The question is when, because it feels like in baseball, every team sort of hits that ditch, for lack of a better term, where they just can't seem to play baseball. It has been that case thus far for the San Diego Padres. And then, Patrick, want to wrap it up with this. Any game for Sunday that you're taking a look at, whether it is a little bit of intrigue with regards to the matchup itself, or maybe it's a team that's off to a hot/cold start that you think might be able to turn it around a little bit?
The Mariners and the Jays is interesting because, the Mariners are going to throw Mark Gonzalez in that game. The Jays are really good at home. They're 9-2 at home. The Mariners need to find themselves and kind of get back on the right way. Gonzalez has pitched pretty well this year. Braves and the Mets, obviously. Spencer Strider's going to start that game. That game is at Citi Field. The Braves have tormented the Mets for as long as I've been alive, and I'm going to be 50 in June. Always important, doesn't matter what month it is. It's always important that the Mets have a good showing against the Braves because the Braves just kick them in the teeth so often. You get the Yankees in Arlington next to Cortez pitching, so that should be a pretty good game. Martin Perez is pitching for the Rangers, so you got a really good pitching matchup. And of course, you have World Series rematch with the Phillies and the Astros, Sunday Night Baseball. Jose Urquidy is on the mound for the Astros, and he has been struggling of late. Can he hold down the Phillies offense? Urquidy's really gotten knocked around, giving up a lot more hits than usual. So can Urquidy get it turned around? He is the one guy in the rotation right now that everybody has the most concern about because of the fact that he just doesn't look anything like himself. And if you go back to the 2021 season, Jose Urquidy spent 2 separate trips on the IL with the same shoulder injury. It cost him half the season. Then the league had a lockout, so he never had any kind of procedure done, was never any kind of off-season rehab program or throwing program. And then last year, he took a big step backwards. This year, he's continuing that slide backwards. It's early, so of course it's correctable. But early returns for Jose Urquidy this year have not been good. That's a very interesting game Sunday night.
Yep, it certainly is going to be a good game Sunday night. The Philadelphia Phillies have been up and down, but going into their game on Saturday, they had finally gotten above water. They finally got above 500, so it certainly has been a fascination. Both of these teams have made the World Series. And Patrick, I know you do an amazing job gauging so many things out there in the great city of Houston. You're actually coming at me from the XFL playoff game between the Renegades and Roughnecks. So I know that you're hard at work there. I know you're doing an amazing job taking a look at the Astros. I'm sure that there's no shortage of reaction out there for what the Houston Texans did in the NFL draft as well. So all the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
All right, so you can find me on ESPN Houston, 7-9 Central Time. You can get us on the ESPN 97.5 app, ESPN975.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PCreighton1. You can find my coverage of the Texans, the Astros, and the Roughnecks at GallerySports.com.
Patrick does an amazing job gauging all things out in the Houston area, and every single time he joins this podcast, lends great insights, much like he did today. A big thanks to Patrick for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to get Patrick Creighton aboard. He does an amazing job taking a look at the game of baseball over there at ESPN 97.5 and really taking a look at the entire landscape of Houston sports, whether that be the XFL, whether that be the NFL, MLB, you're able to go down the list. He does an absolutely incredible job over there. He does the show Late Hits, which is from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. So it was great to be able to get Patrick on today. A big thanks to him. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GNet_D1. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So without further ado, let's dive in with this first game, which is going to be our write-up pick. 901-902 on the betting board. It is the Chicago Cubs. They have third face-off against the Miami Marlins as Brian Hoying is going for Miami, and Justin Steele is on the bump for the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs are anywhere between minus 130 and minus 135 favorites. Meanwhile, anywhere between plus 118 and plus 125 is your number on Miami. 8 is the total. Over and under are both at minus 110, and write-up pick here is going to be on the over. I originally did write up the money line just for full transparency. This is a number that since I made that, it was a case where it went from about a minus 130 money line when I had published it up to a minus 165. I do not want to do this going up against my line, but still see a lot of value here on the total. I set mine at 8.7, so at an 8, my write-up pick here, it is on the over. Absolutely amazing what we have been seeing out of the Chicago Cubs offense thus far this season, as currently they lead the National League in terms of runs per game, and they had 7 out of their 10 players with at least 28 at-bats entering into yesterday, hitting at least a 270. So they have been able to do a tremendous job there as a collective. They're hitting a little bit north of a 275 and going up against the Miami Marlins team that is currently dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game. Going into yesterday, they were averaging 2.6 runs per game at home. They were able to get to Caleb Gillian, who should not have been starting for the Chicago Cubs, and now getting him out of the fold is big because you've got someone in Justin Steele who's been very trustworthy. He's got a $1.19 ERA thus far this season, giving up 2 home runs in 30 and a third innings, and you go back to last season, so 29 starts in total, a sub-280 ERA. He does have an ERA that is nearly a point higher on the road, but for Mr. Hoying, in his 2 career starts, a 14.80 ERA and 11.57 ERA throughout his career, 9 total pitching appearances. He was not really great at the minor league level. I have noticed that he's been able to kick up his velocity a little bit from last season by about 2 to 3 miles per hour, but he's also still backed up by a bullpen that ranks in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. JT Chargois is currently on the injured list for the team. AJ Puck has been able to do a solid job for the team. Uskar Barazoban is able to give you a little bit of something as well, but this is a Miami Marlins bullpen that is not necessarily so trustworthy. The Cubs, they themselves entered into Saturday 19th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, but they've got most of their guys like Brad Boxberger, Michael Fulmer all ready to go because Caleb Killian gave such a bad start that they went into the long relievers. And for the Chicago Cubs, when it comes to the lineup itself, you got Cody Bellinger back after he was on the paternity list. He's been able to hit about a 295. He had a home run yesterday. Patrick Wisdom, he's up to 10 home runs thus far this season. Ian Happ, 400 on base. You just really don't have too many free spots open if you're a Miami Marlins pitcher, other than maybe catcher Tucker Barnhart, who has been able to do a lot. But even someone like Nick Madrigal hitting a 290, and if Yan Gomes is behind the plate like I think he's going to be, he's hitting a 300. Meanwhile, for the Miami Marlins, they do have guys who are able to move the line. Luis Arias hitting well above a 400 thus far this season. Yuli Gurriel, along with Garrett Cooper, both of these guys have been able to move the line, hitting above 275. Brian De La Cruz has been able to give you some good at-bats, but when you get into Gene Segura, Jacob Stallings, throw in there Garrett Hampson, these guys have all been rough. Other than Hampson, all of those guys hitting at 215 or lower. AC Sanchez has not been able to get a lot going. Ode Soler has been able to give you 5 home runs. He's been ripping the cover off the ball, but with the Miami Marlins really having to go deep into their bullpen yesterday, coupled with the fact that Hoying versus Steele, just not a fair pitching matchup. I think that the Cubs should be able to rock the Marlins and rock them hard. Top scoring offense in the big leagues in terms of the National League, I think is going to be able to get it done. Right up pick here, like I said, was originally going to go with the money line, but with the steam move, I am going to be looking at the over. And if you are looking at the run line, I'm finding it on the Cubs right around about a minus 105, which would pretty much be the max I'd be willing to lay. But right up pick here is going to be on the over. 903, 904 on the betting board. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Their third face-off against the Washington Nationals, as Josiah Gray is going to be going for the Nats, and Johan Oviedo is going to be on the bump for the Pirates. And the Pirates are anywhere between minus 130 to minus 140 favorites. Anywhere between plus 110 and plus 120 is your number on Washington. 8.5 is your total. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under, that is anywhere between even and minus 110. And when it comes to the Pittsburgh Pirates, I could only make them a favorite of minus 127 in this spot. So taking a look right now at minus 130, it's been creeping down just a little bit. I'm in wait and see mode, but if you're taking a look at the run line in the spot, the Pirates, they're in between about a plus 120 to a plus 125 with the Nationals. You're finding their run line at more around a minus 140, and if we can get down to more like a minus 135, getting a run and a half, I'd be willing to dive in there. And the big reason why is that Josiah Gray has actually been really good in his last few starts. With Josiah Gray, he's just gotten absolutely no run support whatsoever. As a matter of fact, prior to them being able to take down the New York Mets in his last start by a count of 5-0, his team in his last three starts had been outscored, and this is not even a joke, 4-0. And one of those starts was in Coors Field on the road, and they lost by a count of 1-0. Josiah Gray has gotten zero run support whatsoever, but he's been shoving. I mean, for Josiah Gray, in his last four starts, he has won 5+ innings in every one of them. He has given up 4 runs across those 4 starts. Walks are a little bit of an issue. He's given up 8 walks in those starts, so he's been cleaning that up just a little bit. And then you take a look at Johan Oviedo, and he's really been able to come into his own as well. So I did set my total at 7.8. This is going to be an underlook for me with Oviedo. Ever since he's gotten to the Pittsburgh Pirates, his ERA has been a little bit north of 3. This year, a 3.03 ERA, getting about 9 punch-outs per 9 innings. Walks per 9 rate is 3, and both of these teams middle of the road in terms of their bullpen. Washington Nationals are right around 10th in terms of bullpen ERA since the All-Star break of the 2022 season. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, I mean, it's not a bullpen that is lighting the world on fire, but you know what? 8th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, entering into the double dip yesterday with the Nationals. Carlos Jr., Hunter Harvey, along with Mason Thompson, Erasmo Ramirez. They all had sub-3.3 ERAs last season. Ramirez has been a little bit untrustworthy this year, but past that, these guys have been solid. Meanwhile, David Bennar has been a very good, solid piece in this bullpen. Robert Stevenson has gotten the job done. Even Dwayne Underwood Jr. has a sub-3 ERA for the Pirates. The offense has been able to do a relatively solid job. They were able to put up a combined 14+ runs yesterday, so these guys have been firing all cylinders, as Brian Reynolds, along with Connor Joe, Rodolfo Castro, Jack Swiniski. All these guys are at least a 275, so that has been impactful. Now, I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a fall off with someone like a Castro. Topico Americano has really been able to move the line, and I do think that for the Pittsburgh Pirates, that is going to regress a tad, but for the Washington Nationals, this team just really doesn't generate runs because they don't have any power whatsoever. They entered into their double dip yesterday, dead last in the National League in terms of home runs, with Jameer Candelario, the only guy with north of 2 home runs, and he's been hitting about a 225. You do have guys who are able to get on base. Keeper Ruiz is hitting at 275. Stone Garrett is hitting above a 300. Victor Robles has been able to move the line as well, but you really don't have a lot of power with this Washington Nationals team, which is why I do think that it is a little bit difficult to be given much more credence to the Washington Nationals than the plus 127 that I did. I'm personally going to be waiting on a little bit of overnight line movement, but if we could get down to about a minus 125, minus 126 on this Pirates money line, going to be willing to lay the number. I'm seeing this down as far as minus 127, so right now as it's moving, I'm probably going to be on the Pirates money line, but it's a little bit more of wait and see mode for me as to what we get in the AM. I set the Pirates at minus 127, but also set my total at 7.8, so you're at an 8.5. Looking at the under. 905, 906 on the betting board. It is the Atlanta Braves on the road facing off against the New York Mets. Tyler McGill is going to be going for the Mets, and Spencer Strider is on the bump for Atlanta, and the Braves are in between minus 162 and minus 175 favorites. Meanwhile, in between plus 145 and plus 152 is your number on the Mets. 7.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. And with Atlanta, I made them a minus 163 favorite on the money line. But if you're looking at the run line, you're finding that pretty much anywhere between plus 105 and minus 105. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 105. Not really willing to exceed minus 105, but I am willing to lay the minus 105 on the run line because I do have faith in Spencer Strider, a man that has been able to get north of 13 strikeouts per 9 innings since the beginning of the 2022 season, and this guy has been just flat out filthy. Coming off of giving up 0 runs across 14 innings in his last 2 starts, 22 strikeouts to 3 walks, giving up 3 hits in that span. He has given up 4 hits or fewer in every one of his starts thus far this season, and he goes up against someone in Tyler Megill who's been able to hold down the fort, I think is the best way of putting it, for the New York Mets. Needs to work on the walks, a little bit north of 4 walks per 9 innings, has right around about a 3.96 ERA thus far this season. He's been good in his 2 home starts, giving up 2 runs across 11 innings, but you notice last season he had like a good first month of the season, then he completely fell off. Now, the good news is he is backed up by the better bullpen in this one. The Atlanta Braves have been relatively league average in terms of their bullpen ERA. Meanwhile, the New York Mets, despite the fact that they are without Edwin Diaz for the entirety of the season, it is a team that ranks right around 12th in the league in terms of bullpen ERAs. You've been able to get some good innings out of guys like David Robertson, along with Brooks Raley, a pair of guys that they brought in the offseason. Raley most likely going to be unavailable, but Denny Reyes is able to give you multiple innings. Drew Smith is someone I do like for this team. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Braves, Jesse Chavez has been an albatross, but Michael Tonkin has been a nice long guy. Shouldn't need him in this spot, though. You get back Colin McHugh, Dylan Lee, these guys have been relatively solid, along Joey Jimenez, still dealing with an injury to Rossiel Iglesias, but the Atlanta Braves, they led the National League in terms of home runs last season, and they're getting a lot of supreme power once again this season, as Sean Murphy, Ozzie Albies, along with Matt Olson, a combined 21 home runs between these 3 gentlemen, as Olson and Murphy are both providing north of a 365 on base. Ozzie Albies only hitting about a 250, but you got Ronald Acuna Jr. moving the line, 440 on base. Need a little bit more out of Marcell Ozuna, Eddie Rosario, Kevin Pillar, some of these outfielders trying to fill in for Michael Harris, but it is a fearsome lineup compared to a Mets bunch that they've just had a tough time being able to get on base thus far this season. They're hitting about a 240 as a collective, so that hasn't been too bad, but that falls to 231 at home. They've supplied 8 home runs in 10 games at home thus far this season. Pete Alonso has been incredible for the team. He's already been able to give them 10 home runs, but other than Pete Alonso, you haven't really had guys thumping. Got a lot of guys that they just need to pick it up. Francisco Alvarez, Tommy Pham, Eduardo Escobar, Francisco Lindor, Mark Canha, Starling Marte, all in at 224 or lower for this team. They do an okay job of being able to draw some walks, but I do think that for Tyler Megill, he's just outgunned in this spot. I do think that the Atlanta Braves get to him, and I do think that Spencer Strider is going to be continuing his dominance at it's a little bit of a sneaky, pitcher-friendly ballpark that is not going to be having the world's greatest conditions on Sunday. So I did something I tell at some point for here at a 7.5, looking at the under, and with the Atlanta Braves, want to lay up to a minus 105 on this run line. 907, 908 on the betting board. It is the San Francisco Giants hitting the road face-off against the San Diego Padres. Yu Darvish is going to be going for the Pods, and Alex Cobb goes for the San Francisco Giants. This is going to be at Alfredo Harp Helu Stadium out there in Mexico City, and this is a total that opened up at 15. As I do this, I'm doing this while the game is going on. The total is going up and up and up. I'm right now seeing at DraftKings, this is to an 18. I'm seeing at most other books a 16.5 with regards to this total, shaded up to the over. Meanwhile, with the San Diego Padres, they're in between minus 145 to a minus 155, anywhere between plus 125 and plus 140 is your number on the San Francisco Giants. I will say this right now, this number is certainly going to be moving as I do this podcast, but that said, I set my total at 17.7. I think if you get an 18, this is going to be a spot where you might be wanting to take a look at the unders. I think that that's when you get a buy point, because Yu Darvish is still a very good pitcher, and we saw on Saturday the fact that Sean Manaea got the start. I think that led a little bit to the craziness that we did see, but clearly, it is pretty much a home run derby park here in Mexico City. It is 2,000 feet above sea level as compared to Coors Field, and my goodness, I mean, this is a bandbox of a ballpark. We saw, I believe it was 6 home runs in the first 5 innings of this game, and both of these teams had to just completely burn through their bullpens, and the San Francisco Giants, they're already a bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The San Diego Padres, they've been below average as well. You do have Josh Hader, which that certainly helps out the San Diego Padres. Steven Wilson had a sub-3 ERA last season, but flat out, I think that you need to be banking on the better pitcher in the spot, and that's Yu Darvish. I did set the Padres as a minus 180 favorite, and if you are taking a look at the run line in this spot, you're going to be able to get a nice plus price at right around plus 105. Typically, you'd expect the team that's batting last to get a significantly better price. Honestly, I would be a little bit more willing to lay the money line in this spot, because you are down to about a minus 145, because you're only getting about a plus 105 to a plus 110 on this run line. And for the San Diego Padres, the roll of the dice is that this team has been striking out quite a bit this season, but no team has struck out more than the San Francisco Giants. As a matter of fact, they struck out in 20 27.5% of their at-bats. They do utilize platoon splits to be able to get home runs. As a matter of fact, even prior to this series, they were leading the National League in terms of home runs per game on the road with about 2. You're probably not going to have any guy for the San Francisco Giants have 30-plus home runs this season, but I think that you could have like 8 guys that give you 20-plus as Michael Conforto, J.D. Davis, Mikey Yastrzemski, Thairo Estrada, Wilmer Flores, along with Blake Sabel, all went to Mexico City with between 4 and 5 home runs apiece. It is a Giants team as a collective sitting at 240, and for the San Diego Padres, they entered into the series 4th worst in the league in terms of runs per game. Their batting average as a collective was about a 215, but you know what? You come out to this ballpark and that certainly helps out. And for Alex Cobb, he pitches very well in San Francisco. He doesn't really pitch well on the road. We noticed that last season. Thus far this season, Alex Cobb has been rock solid with a .91 ERA, but it is a very small sample size of 5 starts. Last season, 5.20 road ERA, 2.68 ERA at home. He does a good job of being able to limit hard contact. He's a little bit more of a ground ball pitcher that was able to get 9 punch-outs per 9 innings last season. And Yu Darvish, ever since he's gotten to San Diego, he's been giving up more than a run and a half more on his ERA when he's been on the road rather than when he has been at home as well. And technically, I consider this a road game for both of these starting pitchers. So you got 2 guys, bullpens, 2 pitchers that they pitch significantly worse on the road than they do at home. I do think that we are going to get a home run derby, but at the same time, I do think that Yu Darvish is by far the better starter here than Alex Cobb. So I did set the San Diego Padres in this ordeal at a -180. I'm going to be taking a look at them on this -145 money line, and right now I'm mostly seeing 16.5 in the market. Looking at the over, like I said, 18 is that point of no return for me when you got to be starting to take a look at the under. 909, 910 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks at third face off against the Colorado Rockies. Austin Gomber is going to be going for the Rockies, and Ryan Nelson is on the bump for the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are a favorite of anywhere between -117 to -125, anywhere between +105 and +110. Your number on Colorado, 12 is the total. The over is anywhere between -110 and -115. The under is anywhere between -105 and -110. And I did set my total at 12.7. I'm going to be looking at the over in this ordeal. You obviously don't have quite the elevation that you do with Mexico City, but what you do have is an elevated ERA with our good friend Austin Gomber, as Gomber is posting up a 9.28 ERA, and that's after he had by far his best start of the season, 5 scoreless innings against the Cleveland Guardians. I don't know what got into him, as in his previous 3 starts, he had given up a combined 19 runs against the Nationals, the Pirates, and the Seattle Mariners. That is less than savory. He has been lacking command with 10 walks over his last 3 starts that spans 10 and 2/3 innings. He has given up 5 home runs in 21 and a third innings. He posted up a north of 5.5 ERA last season as well. And for Ryan Nelson, he didn't feel ready for the big leagues, in my opinion. He has been struggling quite a bit. The team is 1-4 in his starts, and he has allowed 3+ runs in 4 out of his 5 starts, but I feel like he's a little bit better backed up in the bullpen now that you've got Joe Mantiply back in the fold, as he, along with the other Nelson and Kyle Nelson, both a sub-3 ERA last season, Andrew Chafin, Miguel Castro, they entered into this bullpen as well. And then for the Colorado Rockies, you've been able to get some good innings out of Brad Hand, along with Brent Suter, who came over in the offseason. Daniel Bard is someone I do like, but for the Colorado Rockies, it is a bunch that they always have those demonstrative home and road splits with regards to their offense. Last year, they led the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. They were dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game on the road. With regards to their lineup, you have been able to have Chris Bryant along with Elias Diaz hit above a 300. You've been seeing, though, CJ Cron has not been able to move the line, as in the lineup that we had on Saturday, each out of the hitters 5 through 9 were either making their first appearance of the year in the case of our good friend Randall Grichuk, or we're hitting a 231 or lower. Those numbers should be increasing as we see more and more home games for the Colorado Rockies. But for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this team has been one of the best teams in the National League in terms of batting average. Only the Chicago Cubs have a better average, as got a lot of guys getting on base for this team, as Pavin Smith, Corbin Carroll, Geraldo Perdomo are all hitting at least a 300. Josh Rojas has been able to get on with about a 280. And I mean, the guys have been struggling for this team, like an Evan Longoria, Christian Walker, hitting below a 240 going into yesterday with not a lot of power. These are guys that you expect to pick it up. I do think that Arizona is going to be able to hit Austin Gomber. It's going to be able to hit Gomber hard. And I do think that the Rockies offense is going to be able to find it against Ryan Nelson. So my total at a 12.7. So here at 12 looking at the over. And with the Colorado Rockies, I set them as a +116 underdog. Right now, I'm seeing right around about a minus 117 to a minus 125 with Arizona, but if you take a look at their run line, you're only finding that right around about a plus 120 to a plus 125. I do need at least a plus 134, so this is going to be one that I'm going to be gauging in the AM. This overnight line was right around a cent or two lower than I would like on the Arizona Diamondbacks. So if we get down to a minus 115, going to be willing to lay it with the Diamondbacks. If we get up to a plus 115, looking at the Rockies to go along with that over. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. And it's the St. Louis Cardinals on the road facing off against the LA Dodgers. Northward Syndergaard is going to be going for the Dodgers. Jake Woodford is on the bump for St. Louis. The total on this game is anywhere between 9.5 and 10. On the 9.5, over is between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 105. Meanwhile, on the 10, the under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. For the LA Dodgers, it is anywhere between minus 144 to a minus 155. On the money line, anywhere between plus 125 and plus 132 is your number on St. Louis. And for the Cardinals, need at least a plus 141 to be able to take a shot. If you're looking at the Dodgers run line, you're going to be getting between plus 125 and plus 130. I need at least a plus 135 to be able to dive in here. So seeing right now, actually one is coming up on the board more around a minus 140. That is my buy point. On the Dodgers, typically you're able to get a little bit of a better run line price, and I typically do like taking the run line with the LA Dodgers, but I just feel like you need to be getting a little bit more, and with the Dodgers, I recognize that they've covered the run line in pretty much all but 19 out of their wins since the beginning part of last season, which I think if you date it back to last year, that's 121 total wins, but this is a little bit of a different Dodgers team entering into Saturday night hitting just a 225 as a collective. I do think that they're going to hit better than that when it's all said and done, but they need the guys at the bottom of the fold to help them out. You've got Trace Thompson, along with Chris Taylor, Miguel Rojas, David Peralta, guys like this hitting below 200. Mookie Betts entered in yesterday at 232. You know that that's going to pick up, and they do have Max Muncy back. He's been able to slug out 11 home runs. He leads the big leagues with that regard. James Outman has been able to provide 7 home runs, north of 360 on base. So these guys have all been able to do a solid job, but you can tell that Will Smith being out of the fold has hurt them. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, they just been a little bit all over the place with darn near everything. How often do the Cardinals start 10-17? Genesis Cabrera, Giovanni Gallegos have been good in the bullpen. Ryan Helsley has been looking a little bit shaky, though. I like Zach Thompson as well, but when you're bringing in guys like Jojo Romero and company, that's rough, as the Cardinals entered into Saturday night 18th with regards to bullpen ERA, and the Dodgers, who actually led the National League in terms of bullpen ERA, entering into the 2023 season from 2022. They were 26th, as the Dodgers, they had Evan Phillips, Yancy Almonte, Caleb Ferguson. All these guys provide a sub-3.3 ERA last season. They're way up. Alex Vesia was another one of those guys. He had a 9 ERA entering into yesterday. And I do think that the Cardinals are going to be able to pick it up with their lineup, as they've had a really rough start to the season. Paul Goldschmidt, Tommy Edman have been able to provide 4 home runs apiece. And Nolan Gorman has been terrific, 6 bombs. He's hitting about a 275. And guys have been able to move the line for this team. Lars Nootbaar, Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, all those guys in the outfield hitting between about a 250 to 256. You've seen Paul Goldschmidt hit above a 300 as well. Still have Nolan Arenado doing a solid job for the team as well. He's been off to a little bit of a rough start to the season, but you know that he's going to be able to pick it up as well. And for Northward Syndergaard, this is year number 2 coming off of Tommy John surgery. I do think that he's going to be looking a little bit better as the season goes along. He's starting to get a little bit more of that swing and miss stuff back. Last year, 6 punch-outs per 9 innings. This year, it's back up to right around 7.5, and the command has been there. He's given up just 4 walks, but 6.58 ERA. He's been a little bit unlucky on balls in play. Jake Woodford has been unlucky on balls in play as well, as he has given up 7 home runs in about 24 2/3 innings thus far this season. And for Mr. Woodford, he did have his issues on the road last season, as last season on the road in his 27 1/3 innings, he had a 3.29 ERA compared to a 0.86 at home, but that was a very small sample size, and you knew that he wasn't going to give up 1 home run over the course of 48 1/3 innings like he did last season. This is not necessarily a strikeout artist, but at the same time, I do think that he's been a tad unlucky this season. Seeing what we've got right now, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 140 with the LA Dodgers and not a cent more, and I do think that we went a little bit too far with this total. It's been a St. Louis Cardinals team that's been a little bit lost at the plate. Semi-total at 9.1, so you're at a 9.5 to a 10. Looking under and looking to lay up to a minus 140 with the Dodgers money line. 913, 914 on the betting board. It is the Boston Red Sox. They play host the Cleveland Guardians as Logan Allen goes for the Guardians, and Chris Sale is on the bump for Boston. Boston in between minus 132 to minus 140 favorites, heading between plus 118 and plus 125 is your number on Cleveland. 9 is the total. Overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. Unders anywhere between even and minus 110. Did set my total at a 9.1. I'm going to be looking at the over. We saw quite a few runs yesterday, and for the Cleveland Guardians, this team has not been able to generate a lot of power. They and the Detroit Tigers are at the bottom of the American League in terms of home runs, but I do think that the Guardians are starting to find what was so successful for them last season. That's just flat out moving the line, as you had so many guys that were able to hit at least a 270 for this team last season. Jose Ramirez, Andres Jimenez, Steven Kwan, Ahmed Rosario, Oscar Gonzalez, Will Brandon, and really, other than Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan, all these guys have been flat-out buster-roonies thus far this season. You're starting to get a little bit more out of Josh Bell, who had a rough start to the season. He was able to go deep yesterday, so that is something encouraging. And Mike Zunino, he's not back to that all-star form of a few seasons ago, but he's been able to do a solid job. Meanwhile, for the Boston Red Sox, this team has played north of 66% of their games to the over thus far this season. It's a little bit of a top-heavy lineup. Alex Verdugo hitting above a 300, and really, you take a look at hitters 1 through 3. Alex Verdugo, Masataka Yoshida, along with Justin Turner down for what? All these guys between a 363 to a 369 on base, and then you've got Rafael Devers only providing about a 285 on base, but he's been able to supply the boom with 10 home runs thus far this season. But you do need a little bit more out of some of these guys like Christian Arroyo, Connor Wong when he's been out there, Yu Chang. These guys ranking below the Mendoza line of 200, Kike Hernandez, along with Remy Altapia have been a little bit all over the place as well, but I do think that for the Cleveland Guardians, they are going to have a little bit of a tough time getting to Chris Sale. Chris Sale has still been able to do a good job of being able to get swings and misses. Now, his last start against the Baltimore Orioles, that was not the case. He actually had 0 strikeouts in that start. Prior to that, he had 6+ punch-outs in each out of his first 4 starts. I do think that he's going to be able to get his strikeout form back. It wasn't really a tip of velocity or anything like that, and taking a look back there. But Chris Sale, right around 3.5 walks per 9 innings. That's a little bit less than savory. And I really do like this Logan Allen kid who comes up for the Cleveland Guardians at the minor league level. He did a solid job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. He's a really good swing and miss guy as well. So I do think that Logan Allen going to be able to provide some upside. First start at the big league level, 8 punch-outs, gave up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. It was against the Miami Marlins, but you know what? You like to see that. And for the Cleveland Guardians, since the All-Star break of the 2022 season, number 1 team in terms of bullpen ERA as Nick Sandlin, Trevor Steven, Aniel De Los Santos, Emmanuel Clase. All these guys provided sub-3.3 ERA last season, including James Karinchak as well. But for the Cleveland Guardians, they really did have to dive deep into that bullpen yesterday, as they have had to throw Emmanuel Clase in 3 out of the last 4 days as well. Plesac was only able to give them 3 1/3 innings yesterday. And for the Boston Red Sox, this team actually ranks in the top half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. At the very least, they did entering into yesterday, and they had to burn up all their guys. Kenley Jansen was used for 29 pitches, and he's not trustworthy to start out with. Richard Blyer, Ryan Brazier, Caleb Ord, these guys are not guys who you want to be relying upon along with Brendan Bernardino. But I do think that Chris Sale is going to be able to lend some good length. I do think that Logan Allen might get a little bit loose, give up a few walks. I do think that the Boston Red Sox slug their way to victory with a pair of teams that are dealing with a tired bullpen due to an extra inning game yesterday. Set my line at minus 144 with the Red Sox, so I want to lay about minus 135 or so like I'm seeing in most markets here. And here at a 9, taking a look at the over. 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners set the road face-off against the Toronto Blue Jays as Chris Bassett has the hook, line, and sinker for the Jays, and Marco Gonzalez is on the bump for Seattle. The Mariners are anywhere between plus 145 and plus 157 underdogs. Meanwhile, with Toronto, it's anywhere between minus 170 and minus 178. 9 is the total. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. And I did set my total at 8.8. I'm going to be taking a look at the under, mainly because I don't think the Mariners are going to hold up their end of the bargain with regards to the offense. I set the Blue Jays minus 196 on the money line. If you take a look at their run line, you're getting between plus 110 to a plus 115. I was willing to lay up to a minus 110, so I'm looking at the Blue Jays run line. The Blue Jays weren't able to generate any offense yesterday, and really for the season, the Blue Jays are about league average with regards to home runs. 30 home runs in 26 games. I think that this is going to be going northward. Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., they're all stuck on 5 home runs, but they're all hitting at least a 3 iron. They all provide at least a 355 on base. And in the case of Chapman, they're nearly a 460 on base. You've got Dalton Varsho, Brandon Belt, along George Springer hitting at 210 or lower. I do think that these guys are going to be able to find their way. Whit Merrifield looks like the Whit Merrifield of old that we saw with the Kansas City Royals. And for the Seattle Mariners, this team has been rather remarkable with their bullpen over the last few seasons. We did hit upon it with Patrick Creighton. They have now lost 4 straight games, all by 1 run. So the good luck that they had with regards to those one-run games last season, they aren't having them thus far this season, but still 7th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. The Blue Jays, by comparison, they are 13th, but for the Mariners, they are currently dealing with an injury to Andres Munoz. You saw Paul Sewell, Penn Murphy, and I like the way that Justin Topa has come in and held down the fort. Sub-2 ERA for this team. Taylor Saucedo has been able to give you some good innings as well, but for the Toronto Blue Jays, even though he's been a little bit shaky, I like Jordan Romano in the closer spot. The former Seattle Mariner and Eric Swanson has been terrific for this team. Anthony Bass has been a mess, and apparently his kids provide messes when it comes to airplanes as well. That's a story for another day, though. But Tim Mays and Zach Pop, these guys relatively solid in that bullpen. And then for the Seattle Mariners, they just haven't been able to get a lot generated in terms of being able to move the line. They're hitting a 222 as a collective. That's in the bottom 5 in the big leagues. Got a lot of guys that are just struggling up there at the plate. The former Blue Jay Teoscar Hernandez, Colton Wong, along with A.J. Pollock, the young infielder, and Jose Cabrera. All these guys are hitting a 210 or lower. Tommy La Stella hasn't been able to do a heck of a lot on anything. As a matter of fact, you've got 2 guys on this Mariners roster right now. They're hitting above a 248. Jared Kelenic, who has been terrific with his 7 home runs, hitting a 322, and Eugenio Suarez, who's not known really for being able to get on base. The Mariners, they're averaging about a home run per game themselves, so it's really been an anemic offense. And for Marco Gonzalez, this guy just has not been able to pitch on the road in recent seasons as well. At home, you could tell that he just pitches so much better last season. 3.58 home ERA, 4.84 ERA on the road. On the road last season, he also gave up 1.65 home runs per 9 innings. He really doesn't get a lot of strikeouts since the beginning part of last season, right around 6 punch-outs per 9 innings. And Chris Bassett did not look comfortable at the beginning part of the season, but he's been able to do a solid job of being able to shape up after giving up that 9 spot to the St. Louis Cardinals, as he has allowed 7 runs, 6 of which were earned over the course of his last 4 starts. He has been issuing the walks, 3+ walks in 3 out of his last 4 starts. That's a little bit unlike Chris Bassett. The swing and miss stuff is down a little bit, but it feels like his velocity has been kicking back up a little bit. I do think that he should be able to keep the Mariners at base. Have I told at 8.8? I'm going to be taking a look at the under, and with the Blue Jays getting plus money on the run line, going to be willing to lay that 1.5. 9.17, 9.18 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles at third face off against the Detroit Tigers, as Spencer Turnbull goes for the Tigers. At Kyle Bradish is on the bump for Baltimore. And Baltimore, anywhere between a -130 to a -140 favorite. Anywhere between plus 115 and plus 122 is your number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Unders between -110 to a -120. The over is anywhere between even a -110. And with the Orioles, set them at a -142. So even at the worst of the number, I'm still willing to lay it with Baltimore. Big question is, what is the run line? And that is anywhere between about a plus 120 to a plus 125. I set mine at a plus 122. I'm going to hold pat with the money line just because with Kyle Bradish, he's the least trustworthy of the starters in my opinion for the Baltimore Orioles, coming off of giving up 7 runs while getting 7 outs against the Boston Red Sox. And last season for Bradish, he was posting up an ERA that was hovering right in the neighborhood about 4.90 as well. He has not really been able to have a lot of big league success, so I will say he's actually got a road ERA that's nearly a half a point better than his home ERA throughout his career, and has been able to give up a little bit less hard contact on the road for his career. He's given up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and he benefits from the fact that he's going up against a Detroit Tigers team that is just absolutely terrible at putting bat to ball. Going into yesterday, they were hitting about a 216 as a collective, with 2 guys with north of 2 home runs, Nick Maton along Kerry Carpenter, and both of these guys hitting a 220 or lower. And just take a look at this Tigers team. You don't have guys that are able to consistently move the line. If you take out the fold Zach Short, because he has just 5 at-bats for the team thus far this season, you've got 3 guys with north of 30 at-bats that are currently hitting above a 235. They are just not providing anything right now. Javi Baez, Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, all these guys are failing to be able to move the line. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Orioles going into Saturday, this team was number 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Ryan Mountcastle has not really been able to hit for average, but he's been able to slug out 6 home runs thus far this season. Adley Rutschman, north of a 400 on base. Anthony Santander, only hitting about a 210 going into the double dip yesterday, but he was dealing with some back issues. I do think that he's going to be able to return to form for this team. And then you got Jorge Mateo along with Cedric Mullins. This is the best base stealing duo in all of baseball as of right now. Ryan O'Hearn has been able to move the line as well. And for the Baltimore Orioles, they entered into the doubleheader yesterday, number 3 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, they had to burn up quite a few of their trustworthy guys like Mike Baumann and company, but take a look in game 2 of that double dip. They utilized pretty much everyone other than Baumann for 14 pitches or less. So someone like a Brian Baker, Danny Columbi, all these guys that are providing you with a sub-3 ERA, they should be able to come back. And for the Detroit Tigers, they're diminished with with their bullpen this year as compared to last year. Last year, you had guys like Michael Fulmer, Joe Jimenez, Andrew Chafin and company, and they have fallen downhill ever since then, as this is a Tigers team that entered into yesterday with a 4.59 bullpen ERA. That is 23rd in the big leagues. You still got Jose Cicerno, but he was used for 20-plus pitches in Game 2 yesterday. Jason Foy has actually been solid as well. He, too, was used for 20-plus pitches for the Tigers. They don't have a lot of options, so you could be going to someone like Tyler Alexander, and that's not necessarily too terrific. Meanwhile, for Spencer Turnbull, he did not start at all during the 2022 season, coming back from injury, and has just not looked very sharp at all. He's always given up quite a few walks, has never been too much of a strikeout guy. His main specialty is keeping the ball in the yard, and so far so good. 2 home runs given up in 22 and a third innings, but he's also given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his first 5 starts. He's given up 3+ walks in each out of his last 2 starts while providing 5 strikeouts to get those 6 walks, so it's not necessarily what you want to see from Turnbull. I don't think that he's going to be able to give a lot of length. You could be looking at someone like a Mason Englert coming in for long relief as well. So this is a total that I did set at an 8.7. Bradish, not necessarily a guy that I trusted too much, but I don't trust in Turnbull either. And I do think that the Orioles are able to get to Turnbull. So looking to lay up to about a -140 here on the Orioles money line, and taking a look at this total over 919, 920 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox play host to the Tampa Bay Rays. Drew Rasmussen goes for the Rays, and Mike Clevinger is on the bump for the White Sox. 9 is your total over and under anywhere between -105 to -115. With the Rays, it's anywhere between -170 to -190, anywhere between +150 and +162 your number on the White Sox. And if you're looking at the Rays run line, find that anywhere between a -105 to a -110, and I am willing to lay up to a -110 on the run line. Need at least a +165 to take a shot on the White Sox money line, so I'm going to be riding with this Rays run line. The Rays just completely outclassed the Chicago White Sox in every facet of the game, and I recognize that there's a lot of people out there that are saying that regression is due for Mike Clevinger, and I do agree with them, but at the same time, Mike Clevinger is one of the few guys giving you an honest effort for the Chicago White Sox. 4.81 ERA. The walks are an issue. He's been giving up nearly 5 walks per 9 innings, and he did give up a 6 spot in his last start against the Toronto Blue Jays. All in all, he's starting to look a little bit more like the Mike Clevinger of old. I'd say that he's there a little bit more than he was last season. Still looks to be a bit of a work in progress. Meanwhile, for Drew Rasmussen, he got shelled in his last start against the Houston Astros, and it's been very strange with Drew Rasmussen. He has made 5 starts this year, 3 of which he went scoreless, and the other 2 he's given up 5 runs in against better competition. That would be the Blue Jays along with the Astros. But for Drew Rasmussen, he's always been able to perform relatively well regardless of the circumstances. Last year at about a 3.50 ERA on the road, giving up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings, and going up against a lesser team in the Chicago White Sox that was riding an 8-game losing streak going into yesterday. I think that he should be able to outclass them, as the Chicago White Sox were always known for being able to hit lefties and not being able to hit righties. Now they just can't hit anyone whatsoever. They entered into yesterday hitting at .230 as a collective, and it's been relatively deplorable with this lineup, as Andrew Benintendi has been able to move the line. He and Jake Berger hitting for about a .335 to a .350 on base entering into yesterday. Andrew Vaughn, he's been able to move the line as well. One of the few guys on the team that is willing to take a walk, but Luis Robert, along with Answer Alberto, Elvis Andrews, Oscar Colas, Eloy Jimenez, all these guys entered into yesterday hitting a .220 or lower. Not a lot of boom with this team as well. 26 home runs in 27 games. Losing Jose Abreu, a big RBI guy, has been rough for this team. But what has been even worse for the Chicago White Sox, in my opinion, their bullpen is just completely deplorable at this point. They entered into yesterday with a 6 bullpen ERA. That is 29th in the league. Reynaldo Lopez, Aaron Bummer, Jimmy Lambert. They're living up to the name of Bummer. They've been a bummer. All these guys have stunk. You've got Joey Kelly, who's been providing north of a 9 ERA. I don't know why he's currently employed. Gregory Santos and Keenan Middleton have probably been the best bullpen pieces for this team. Meanwhile, you've got a Tampa Bay Rays team that, even if Drew Rasmussen doesn't give the world's greatest start, yesterday they entered into the game with a .255 bullpen ERA, second best in the big leagues. You've got so many guys like a Pete Fairbanks, Colin Boucher. They now get back Ryan Thompson off the injured list, Jason Adam, all these guys that are able to supply good innings for this team. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Rays, everyone really other than Manuel Margot along with Luke Raley are hitting for this team, as Randy Arozarena along with Wander Franco are all hitting above a .290. Both of these guys have north of 5 home runs. Brandon Lau doesn't have the world's greatest batting average at right around about a .235, but he's been able to supply 7 home runs. Taylor Walls has been able to find it. He's hitting north of 265. He's been able to give the team a trio of home runs. The Tampa Bay Rays lead the league at darn near every offensive category. Meanwhile, the Chicago White Sox, they don't necessarily provide a lot of pitching. I do think that Mike Clevenger is starting to look a little bit more like himself, which is a big reason why I did set this total at an 8.2. So getting the 9 that we're seeing right now, I'm going to be willing to dive under. But with the Tampa Bay Rays, I do think that they hold down a rather rudderless Chicago White Sox lineup. I'm willing to take the Rays on the run line and take a look at this 9 under 921, 922 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins play host to the Kansas City Royals. Brady Singer is going to be going for the Royals, and Sonny Gray is on the bump for Minnesota, and the Twins are anywhere between minus 205 and minus 225 favorites. Between plus 180 and plus 190 is your number on the Kansas City Royals. 7.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. I needed at least a plus 199 to take a shot on the Kansas City Royals. If you're taking a look at the run line of the Minnesota Twins, you're finding that right around even money. I'm even seeing a plus 102 out there, and I'm going to be willing to take the run line. I was willing to lay up to a minus 108. You've got Brady Singer, who was very reliable for the team last season. As a matter of fact, at the end of last season, he was able to win 12 out of his last 16 starts for the Kansas City Royals, but Brady Singer just has not been the same this season. Meanwhile, darn near everyone in the starting rotation for the Minnesota Twins have dealt. Now, the Twins are dealing with a few injury concerns of their own in the bullpen. Jorge Alcala is currently out of the fold, but Yohan Duran has been highly reliable for them, so I do like what they're getting there. And for Sonny Gray, he hasn't lent a lot of length. He's went north of 5 innings just twice this year, but he has got a 0.62 ERA, and he has allowed 1 earned run in his last 3 starts. His strikeout numbers are up 34 punch-outs in 29 innings thus far this season. Walks per 9 rate hovering right around 3, and Brady Singer with a 6.67 ERA, coming off of a really good start after he had been just getting destroyed in his previous 3. Had given up 18 runs in his previous 3 starts, went to Arizona, was able to have a relatively solid showing, and for Brady Singer, he has always had a little bit of a tough time on the road. Last year, 3.99 road ERA compared to a 2.78 ERA at home. Walks have always been an issue from him early on in his career. He has been able to clean that up ever since he went down to the minor leagues a few seasons ago. 6 walks in 27 innings thus far this season, but strikeouts per 9 rate right around 8, and with the Kansas City Royals, bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Ronald Shem and Scott Barlow, they've been able to do a solid job, but the likes of Jose Cuas, Carlos Hernandez, they're hoping that Josh Jameon can become what he was a few seasons ago. That's a little bit of an issue now. For the Minnesota Twins, you also have guys like Brock Stewart, Caleb Thielbar. They're dealing within the bullpen, but Jorge Lopez has been able to do a solid job. And for Sonny Gray, he should be able to keep his dominance going, as you've got a Kansas City Royals lineup that has just not been able to get on base. They're hitting a 219 as a collective bottom 5 mark in the big league. Salvador Perez, he's starting to pick it up. 3 home runs, hitting at 265. Vinny Pasquantino, along with Bobby Witt Jr., have been your main power hitters thus far this season. A combined 9 home runs, and for Pasquantino, he's hitting at 260, but among players that have had at least 40 at-bats for this team, you got 3 guys hitting above a 232, and then you've got Franmil Reyes, Kyle Isabel, MJ Melendez, Michael Massey, Hunter Dozier, Jackie Bradley Jr., Nate Eaton, all hitting at 200 or lower. For the Minnesota Twins, it's been a little bit of rough sledding for this team on offense as far this season as well. Carlos Correa is off to a rough start. He's hitting at 209. You just expect a little bit more of the likes of Trevor Lawrence, Jose Miranda, Byron Buxton. They're all in between about a 239 to a 249, but power numbers are starting to come around on Byron Buxton. He's up to 6 home runs thus far this season as he's went deep at 2 of the team's last 4 games, so that is encouraging. Donovan Solano's been able to move the line. He's hitting about a 280, and then you do have Nick Gordon out there. He's not been great, but ever since Ode Polanco has gotten back in the fold, he's been able to do a relatively solid job as well. So this is a spot where I'm going to be taking a look at. The Twins run line was willing to lay up to a minus 108 there, but I think that this is going to be another low-scoring game. Some might tell us 7.4. I think that Singer is starting to refine it, and Sonny Gray has been dominant all season long. So looking at the under on 7.5 and looking at the Twins run line, 923, 924 on the betting board. The New York Yankees hit the road face-off against the Texas Rangers as Monty Perez is going to be going for the Rangers. Nestor Cortez is on the bump for the Yankees, and the Yankees are anywhere between minus 114 and minus 125 favorites, and between plus 104 and plus 114 is your number on the Texas Rangers. 8 is the total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 110. And with Nasty Nestor, I set him as a minus 131 favorite. Going to be one to take the Yankees in this spot. It's been very strange watching New York Yankees. They've been the best under team in all of baseball thus far this season, and I do think that we're going to get a little bit more scoring in this game. So I might total it at 8.1. Looking at the over for Cortez, He had an ERA that was sub-2 at home last season. His home runs per 9 rate was more around 1.3 when he was on the road, a little bit north of a 3 ERA, so that is a little bit of a concern. And for Cortez, he has given up 7 runs, 6 of which were earned in his last 2 starts, so a little bit of concern there. Good but not great strikeout pitcher, 9 punch-outs per 9 innings, but going up against someone in Martin Perez that has been relatively solid thus far this season, but has given up 4 home runs in 27 and 2/3 innings, posting up a 2.60 ERA, coming off of a tremendous start, 1 unearned run against the Cincinnati Reds, but he has given up 3+ runs in 2 out of his last 4 starts. Now for the Texas Rangers, bullpen has been relatively solid. In the top 10 in terms of ERA, Jonathan Hernandez, Jose Leclerc, Brock Burke, they all had a sub-3 ERA last season, and Josh Zaboras, Will Smith, these guys have been able to do a solid job in the bullpen as well, but Yankees entered into Saturday, number 1 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Really, other than Clay Holmes, this bullpen has been very good. Albert Abreu, Ron Marinaccio, Wandy Peralta, Ian Hamilton, all these guys providing sub-3 ERA. Jimmy Cordero has been able to do a solid job. Now, the Yankees got blanked yesterday, and Aaron Judge has been in a little bit of a cold spell, and he's been getting a couple days off, so that's been a little bit of an issue. Guys, you just take a look at the bottom of the fold that the Yankees threw out there yesterday. Among their bottom 4 hitters, you have one guy hitting above a 207, as that was Jose Trevino. Gleyber Torres, CJ LeMahieu, these guys have cooled down a little bit. Anthony Volpe is starting to find it a little bit more, and Anthony Rizzo, 383 on base. He's been able to supply 5 home runs, but it's a little bit of an all-or-nothing offense. Meanwhile, for the Texas Rangers, you do have a good amount of guys who are able to move the line. Robbie Grossman, Nate Lowe, along Josh Young, Adolis Garcia, all in between about a 250 to 260. They're still missing Corey Seager, but you've been able to get a lot of production out of Travis Janikowski, sitting right around at 300 for this team. Simeon, he's been able to do a solid job going deep 4 times in the last 2 weeks as well, so that has been coming around for the team. But I do think that Martin Perez is going to get outdueled by Nestor Cortez. I do think that this Yankees lineup, it is going to start to get a little bit better. It's going to start to get a little bit more consistent. DJ LeMahieu always does a good job of being able to get on base, and Gleyber Torres, I do think that he's going to be able to find a little bit of pop in his bat as well. So this is a spot where I did set the Yankees at a minus 131. I'm going to be willing to lay them on the money line. Sub I total just north of 8, so looking at the over as well. 925, 926 on the betting board. The LA Angels hit the road face-off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Colin Ria is going to be going for the Brewers, and Jose Suarez is on the bump for the Angels. And the Angels are anywhere between a plus 114 to a plus 124 underdog. Brewers between minus 114 and minus 124. 9 is your total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 125. The under is anywhere between plus 105 and minus 110. And with the Brew Crew, I did set them at a minus 134. I'm going to be willing to take Ria and company. Ria, a little bit of a journeyman pitcher that has been able to do a functional job for the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm not going to say a great job. He's posting up a 5.17 ERA, and really it's one good start. Came against the San Diego Padres, and aside from when they're in Mexico City, they have been a rough offense as he has allowed 8 runs across 10 innings in his last 2 starts. The big thing for him, being able to control the walks, 7 walks in 15 and 2/3 innings. Thus far this season, you have to go back quite a ways to be able to find his other major league numbers, as he pitched in Japan for a little bit. He's been bouncing around the minor leagues, but command from everything I've seen, not great, not terrible. Meanwhile, Jose Suarez has been getting completely destroyed this season. 4+ runs surrendered in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and he gave up 5 home runs in his last start to the Oakland A's. That is not what you want to see. The LA Angels, surprisingly, entered into Saturday in the top 11 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. There's no way that lasts. Matt Moore has actually been able to post up right around 2 ERA since the beginning part of last season. Carlos Aceves has come in from Colorado. He's been okay in this bullpen, but guys like Andrew Wantz, Chase Silseth, Chris Davinsky, these are not great arms. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, despite the fact that they pretty much gave away Josh Hader a season ago, they've been able to do a good job in the bullpen. Guys like Kobe Milner, Joel Payamps, Peter Strzelecki, they've all been good bridge guys. Devin Williams, pretty much everyone other than Matt Bush and Javi Guerra have been solid, and these are 2 guys that are currently not on the roster, so you're able to feel good about that. Rowdy Tellez has been able to do a nice job of being able to supply the boom for the Brewers, right around a 340 on base. He's been able to supply 8 home runs. Christian Yelich just continues to be a big-time waste of money. He, Joey Wiemer, along with Bryce Terang, are laying a 225 or lower throw in their Luke Voigt as well, so pretty much the young guys with Christian Yelich are not holding up their end of the bargain, but William Adames, power numbers are okay. 5 home runs, about a 353 on base, Brian Anderson has been able to supply 5 bombs, but has been hitting significantly better at home rather than on the road. Would like to have Garrett Mitchell in the fold. He's been dealing with an injury, but still it's been rather solid. And for the LA Angels, very top-heavy lineup right now. Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, you know exactly what to expect out of these two guys. They're both hitting above 290. A combined 13 home runs out of those two, and Hunter Renfroe hitting at 260, 7 home runs. He was a Brewer last season, and he was out with the Brewers. I will give a little bit of love to Brandon Drury as well. He's someone that has been able to supply the team with 4 home runs over the team's last 6 games, but you do have the catcher spot in general with having Logan O'Hoppe out of the fold be a little bit of a sore spot. Taylor Ward is only hitting about at 210 with 3 home runs. You expect more out of him. Jake Lamb, Luis Rendifo, you just would like them to be able to perform a little bit better. I did set my total in this spot at a 9.2. Being able to get a 9, I'm going to be taking a look at the over. Rhea, I think, gives up some runs, and Jose Suarez is having a season to forget, but I do think that the Brewers have a bit of a better bullpen, and I do think that they're going to be able to hold down the fort after both starters give up some runs. Set the Brewers at a minus 134, taking the Brewers on the money line, and take a look at the over. 927, 928 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they're onto the road to face off against the Oakland A's. Ken Waldichuk is going to be going for the A's, and Nick Lodolo is on the bump for the Cincinnati Reds. And the Reds are between minus 145 to minus 155 favorites, anywhere between plus 130 and plus 139, your number on Oakland, with 8 being the total. Unders between minus 110 to minus 125, the overs between minus 110 and plus 105. And when it comes to the Red Legs, I did set them as a favorite of minus 162. And if you're looking at the run line, you're finding that on the Reds at a plus 110. I was willing to lay a very small number of minus 103, so I'm willing to buy in here on the Reds run line. This Oakland A's team has honestly been able to provide quite a bit of offense. They are the top over team in all of baseball thus far this season, but the problem with the Oakland A's is their bullpen has an ERA that's hovering right around 7. They just keep blowing game after game. You don't have really anyone that's trustworthy in the bullpen. Domingo Acevedo, he's gotten off to a rough season after last year. He had a sub-3.5 ERA. Tristan Familia, that is still Spanish for blown save, and he blew one yesterday as well. You're relying upon guys like Adam Muller and company, and for Ken Waldichuk, this guy is just not starter material. Meanwhile, Nick Lodolo, he certainly is. For the Cincinnati Reds, Lodolo has been relatively solid at being able to get swings and misses. His strikeouts per 9 rate, that is north of 11 thus far this season. Now, he has been getting completely banged around, as in his last few starts it has been a little bit less than savory to go to his ERA of a 6.31, giving up 14 runs across his last 2 starts against the Texas Rangers along the Tampa Bay Rays. But you go back to what he was able to do last season, and I do think that that's a little bit more of what you could expect here. 3.66 ERA. Now, he did give up some runs on the road, but now he's pitching in arguably the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in the American League in Oakland. Meanwhile, for the A's, you do have Brent Rooker has been able to supply 8 home runs this far this season. He's hitting a 3.33. Shanghai Langolaris, he's been able to hit 6 bombs as well. You do have quite a few guys that they have a little bit of a tough time moving the line, especially at home, because on the road, the team is hitting about a 245-ish as a collective. At home, it's more like a 214. Other than Brent Rooker and Ryan Noda, a lot of these guys have had a tough time getting on, like Ramon Laureano, Kevin Smith, Seth Brown. These are guys hitting a 220 or lower when they are at home. Meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Reds, they did not return a single guy that gave them north of 12 home runs last season, but they do have guys who are able to get on base. Jonathan India, TJ Friedel, Tyler Stevenson, guys at the top of the fold, hitting a 280 or better. Now, you got Joey Vosler, Jose Barrero, Kevin Newman, all these guys hitting a 220 or lower. Stuart Fairchild as well, and Joey Vosler, he has been stuck on 3 home runs for multiple weeks, and he is the only guy on the roster that has provided at least 3 home runs for this team. But for the Cincinnati Reds, they've got a formidable bullpen. They're league average with this regard. Derek Law's been okay. Alexis Diaz, Fernando Cruz, both of these guys had a sub-2 ERA last season. They picked up Alex Young. I've always liked him. He's got a sub-1 ERA this far this season. And with Ken Waldichuk right now posting up a 7.82 ERA, giving up 9 home runs in 25 and a third innings. Do I think that he's going to continue to give up that sort of a home runs per 9 rate? No, and his ERA is 5.06 at home compared to a 9.02 on the road, but he's been deplorable wherever he's pitched thus far. So I did sell my total at 8.6. Getting an 8 in this spot, I'm going to be looking at the over. Now with the Reds, was willing to lay a small price on the run line, getting north of a plus 110. Going to be taking a look there, and we wrap things up with 929, 930 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies, they hit the road to face off against the Houston Astros as Jose Urquidy is going to be going for the Astros, and Bailey Falter hopes to not live up to his aim for the Philadelphia Phillies. Astros ending between minus 136 to minus 155 favorites, and between plus 125 and plus 132. Your number on Philadelphia 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. The under is even. Semi-total and an 8.7. So here at an 8.5, I'm going to be taking a look at this total over with Jose Urquidy. He's been giving up quite a bit of contact thus far this season, as he's also been having a tough time in terms of command. For his career, Urquidy is always about a 2.3, 2.4 walks per 9 inning rate guy. This year, that has been more like 4. I do think that that's a product of a small sample size, and for Urquidy, he was actually worse at home than he was on the road last season. At home last season, he's given up right around 1.8 home runs per 9 innings compared to 1.35 home runs per 9 innings when he was on the road, but goes up against someone in Bailey Falters. Had a tough time on the road thus far this season, giving up 10 runs across 17 innings when on the road thus far this season. He actually had a 2.42 road ERA compared to a 5.49 home ERA a season ago. Bailey Falter, though, in general, he just gives up a lot of hard contact dating back to last season, north of a home run and a half per 9 innings. Now, the Astros are a little bit wounded right now. Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley being out the fold hurts, but Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena, they've all been able to supply the team with between 5 and 6 home runs. Been able to have Mauricio Dubon be able to hit for nearly a 300 along Corey Julks. These guys have been solid at being able to get on. Now, you take a look at the catcher spot in general. You've been having the young guy, David Hensley, not be able to perform. That's been a little bit of an issue, and Alex Bregman off to one of his pendant slow starts. But for the Philadelphia Phillies, they move the line, but they don't necessarily hit for power. You've got Kyle Schwarber, who's been able to give the team 6 home runs thus far this season, but expected a little bit more than 29 homers in 27 games for them. Now, you do have Christian Pache, along Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, all hitting at least a 320, and then Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, these guys in between about a 280 to a 290. Trey Turner's honestly been one of the less than trustworthy guys for this lineup, but for the Philadelphia Phillies, what has been less than trustworthy for them has been the bullpen. Now, last 10 days, it has performed significantly better. They are still in the bottom 7 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Andrew Vasquez has also been solid. He's actually given you a sub-2 ERA on Jose Alvarado, but Anthony Dominguez got off to a rough start to the season. Craig Kimbrell continues to be Craig Kimbrell. He's got right around about a 4 ERA, and the Astros, they had the top bullpen ERA in the big leagues a season ago. Thus far this season, they're back in the top 8 with this regard. Ryan Stanek, Rafael Montero, Brian Abreu, Hector Neris, all these guys have been able to do a pretty solid job of being able to tie things down, but at the same time, I do expect a little bit of regression with this Astros bullpen compared to a season ago. You had so many guys just provide career years, so this is a circumstance where at the 8.5, I'm going to be taking a look at the over with the Astros. I did set them on the money line as a rather substantial favorite at a minus 158. If you are taking a look at the run line of the Astros, you're getting that anywhere between a plus 135 to a plus 140. In order for me to take the run line, I did need at least a plus 125 in this circumstance. Seeing right now a minus 136 at circa, that is where I'd be taking a look at this money line of the Houston Astros. I think that there's a little bit more value there in playing it safe rather than going for the run line to go along this total over. And now we're at things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to Patrick Creighton, who does great work over at ESPN 97.5, taking a look at all things Houston sports. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways to be able to throw those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @unit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. And that means I'm coming at you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.